Oh, I'm in the wrong one. I don't want to show you the answers. All right, so we're dealing with more multiple choice. So we have our 21 through 23 are multiple choice, and our 24 through 30 are fill the blank. Right. So as I've told you, it's all multiple choice and fill the blank. What's the difference? In each section, the language progressively gets more difficult in each section. Right. That's what they're doing here. The language will get progressively more difficult as you move on. So, in section 3, it's still multiple choice, same as in section 2, but now you see the answer choices are longer, right? The questions are longer, the answer choices are longer. The words for fill the blank questions, the words you have to spell are going to be more difficult. But the strategy is still the same. For 21, we're listening for the main topic of the paper. For 22, we're listening for the disadvantage they agree on. For 23, we're listening for what Stewart expects. Right now, you're expected to know the difference between male and female names. I understand that it may not be your culture, but you have to know that Stewart is a man's name. Okay, because in a conversation, if they say Stewart expects, there's probably going to be a conversation between a man and a woman. You have to know that Stewart is a male name. Okay, in the fill the blank questions, all right, we have the language that is connected to the blank words. 24 has something of its own. 25, affected by in all aspects. 26, take the and blank of customers. 27 is required. 28 is something that belongs to a famous person. 29 is has a and local organizations. And 30 is library in a. Okay. All right. So let's get started with section 3.
Section 3. You will hear two students called Trudy and Stuart, who are both studying to be librarians, discussing a paper that they are going to write together. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 23. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 23.
Okay, Stuart, we need to start planning our paper on public libraries. Have you thought of an angle yet?
Well, there's so much we could look into. How libraries have changed over the centuries, for instance, or how different countries organise them. What do you think, Trudy?
Maybe we should concentrate on this country and try and relate the changes in libraries to external developments, like the fact that far more people can read than a century ago, and that the local population may speak lots of different languages.
We could include something about changes in the source of funding, too.
Yes, but remember we're only supposed to write a short paper, so it's probably best if we don't go into funding in any detail.
Right. Well, shall we just brainstorm a few ideas to get started?
Okay. We obviously need to look at the impact of new technology, particularly the internet. Now that lots of books have been digitalised, people can access them from their own computers at home.
And if everyone did that, libraries would be obsolete.
Yes.
But the digitalised books that are available online for free are mostly out of copyright, aren't they? And copyright in this country lasts for 70 years after the author dies. So you won't find the latest bestseller or up-to-date information.
That's an important point. Anyway, I find it hard to concentrate when I'm reading a long text on a screen. I'd much rather read a physical book, and it takes longer to read on a screen.
Oh, I prefer it. I suppose it's just a personal preference.
I expect the libraries will go on evolving in the next few years. Some have already become centres where community activities take place, like local clubs meeting there. I think that'll become even more common.
I'd like to think so, and that they'll still be serving their traditional function, but I'm not so sure. There are financial implications after all. What I'm afraid will happen is that books and magazines will all disappear and there'll just be rows and rows of computers. They won't look anything like the libraries we're used to.
Well, we'll see.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 24 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 24 to 30.
I've just had an idea. Why don't we make an in-depth study of our local public library as background to our paper?
Yes, that'd be interesting, and raise all sorts of issues. Let's make a list of possible things we could ask about, then work out some sort of structure. For instance, we could interview some of the staff and find out whether the library has its own budget or if that's controlled by the local council.
And what their policies are. I know they don't allow food, but I'd love to find out what types of noise they ban. There always seems to be a lot of talking, but never music. I don't know if that's a policy or it just happens.
I've often wondered. Then there are things like how the library is affected by employment laws. I suppose there are rules about working hours, facilities for staff and so on.
Right. Then there are other issues relating to the design of the building and how customers use it. Like, what measures does the library take to ensure their safety? They'd need floor coverings that aren't slippery, at emergency exits, for instance. Oh, and another thing, there's the question of the kind of insurance the library needs to have, in case anyone gets injured.
Yes, that's something else to find out. You know something I've often wondered?
What's that?
Well, you know they've got an archive of local newspapers going back years. Well, next to it, they've got the diary of a well-known politician from the late 19th century. I wonder why it's there. Do you know what his connection was with this area?
No idea. Let's add it to our list of things to find out. Well, I've just thought, you know, people might ask in the library about local organisations like sports clubs. Well, I wonder if they keep a database or whether they just look online.
Right. I quite fancy finding out what the differences are between a library that's open to the public and one that's part of a museum, for example. They must be very different.
Then something else I'd like to know is...
That is the end.
All right. So as you see, it gets much more difficult. That's why I tell you, sections 1 and 2 be great. Sections 3 and 4 be good. Sections 1 and 2 be great, right? Super great, okay? Because it gets more difficult and the language gets more difficult as you progress. But it's still fill the blank. It's still multiple choice. All right, let's take a look at the answers. Number 21, the answer is B. Now, for number 21, did anybody pick A or C? No one picked A or C? Right. Well, if you did pick A or C, it's because you fell for exact language traps. Right? They said public library. They said different countries. When you hear that exact language, leave it alone. Right? Leave it alone. They're trying to trick you. They said the word funding and changed. Leave it alone. All right. Your answer is going to use synonyms, the correct answer. Right? For choice B, the woman said we need to look at the external development. More people are reading and they speak different languages. That's related to changes in society. That's your synonym language, right? This test is not designed for you to sit there and say, oh, they said different countries and they said public library. I see those words. I'm going to pick that answer. That's not the way it works. Do you know why? That's the answer choice that somebody picks who doesn't know English very well. If somebody only has basic English, right? People that have basic English, you know what they do? They pick answers for words that they hear. That's what somebody with basic English does. All right. So when you're doing that, you're answering for them, for the IELTS people, you're answering in a very basic English type of way. And for the IELTS exam, they want to ensure or try to ensure that a basic English person does not do well. So they design wrong answers to attract a basic English person. So you can't be that person. All right, number 22. I hope you understand that a little bit better now. Number 22 is C. A is wrong because the man said he prefers it. Right? Key language here is they agree. Right? The man was talking about, or the woman was talking about, is difficult to read and takes a long time to read. The man said he prefers it. Also, for choice B, they tried to trick you because they said the word read 3 times. Right? So again, they're trying to attract you with exact language. Keyword is C. The answer is C. They are generally too old. The woman, when the man said that, the woman said that's an important point. That means she agrees. Because the man said that 70 years after the author died, that you don't have the latest information. That's synonym for old. And the woman said that's an important point. The language of saying that's an important point means the same as they agree. Right? This is what IELTS listening is synonym language, is recognizing language in the question and how that language in the question connects to the answer choice. Number 23, Stewart expects. We know B is wrong because the woman said it. Okay. A is something he said he wasn't sure about. C is the correct answer. Right? He said that he imagines that there will be rows and rows of computers, nothing like today. Synonym for no longer contain any books. All right. Those are answers for 21, 22, and 23. Some of you were asking me about the strategy for multiple choice questions. That's it. That's the strategy for multiple choice questions. You have to be able to recognize synonym language. Okay, you have to be able to recognize that. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about multiple choice questions? I've gone through it a couple of times now, and the strategy is the same. It's recognizing question language, matching it to an answer, picking a synonym. Okay, it's that same thing over and over and over again. All right, if no questions, then I'll move down to the next answers. Those first answers, 21 is B, 22 is C, 23 is C. All right, let's go down. 24 is budget. Can I mark